Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And in today's range report, we have something that really has me excited on the workbench. This is a gun that I never thought I would get to hold, shoot, or review. This is the Glock 25. Essentially, it is a compact-sized pistol, so it's the same size as a Glock 19, but it is chambered in .380. So why does that excite me so much? Well, it's because for a long time, this gun was unobtainium here in the United States. It did not meet the importation criteria set forth by the Department of Justice and the ATF. Essentially, because it's chambered in .380, it's considered to be not suitable for sporting purposes. But how in the world did I get a hold of this? Well, this gun was not imported. It was made here in the United States. The distribution company Lipsey's convinced Glock to make a limited production of these. And so I get to shoot this, to review this, and that's pretty darn cool. I've always been fascinated by this gun, not just because the US government said I wasn't allowed to have one, but because I felt there was so much misinformation out there about it. What little information we could gain was from videos that were posted in other countries like Argentina, Brazil, or Mexico, where you have laws that state civilians are not allowed to own firearms that are chambered in military caliber such as 9x19, but 9x17 is totally fine. In fact, that was the primary market for this pistol. But watching those videos, I couldn't tell, was this a direct blowback pistol? Did it use the locking system that other Glocks used? What was the recoil like? Well, we couldn't get any of that information, but now I have one here on the table, so hopefully I can answer those questions. In my own research and looking at pictures of this gun, I was pretty sure it used a tilting barrel. But even to this day, when I talk about this, they say, oh no, that's a modified direct blowback. Well, I can tell you, and I'll show you some close-ups, this is not a modified direct blowback pistol. It uses the same locking system as the Glock 19. And yes, the barrel hood looks a little bit different because 9x17 is a little bit shorter, but I will give you some side-by-side comparisons in just a moment. So I'm really excited to see how this gun shoots. And I've always wanted to review one because I was told for so long, you can't have one. But here we are. So I really want to thank somebody special for this because actually I was able to pick up one of these for myself. But as a weird Glock collector, I really don't want to shoot it because I think it's kind of rare. Not super rare, but just rare enough for me to want to keep it unfired. But my friend, Jack number one as I call him because he was the first person named Jack that has lent guns to the channel, called me up and said, hey Jason, I picked up one too. Since you're not going to shoot yours, why don't you review mine? So I want to give him a huge shout out for giving me this opportunity to create this content. I also have to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here, and I could not create this content without them. And if you want to join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month, there's a link in the description below, and you get to see all of these videos early. And as always, I have to give a huge shout out to my primary channel sponsor who provides all of the ammunition for these range reports and makes them financially feasible for me, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And I know that the pistol that we are looking at today is a polymer striker-fired pistol. It doesn't take wood panel grips, but it is kind of interesting and collectible. And you probably have interesting and collectible pistols in your safe at home. Maybe you have a Colt 1911, a Beretta 92, a CZ75, or a Browning High Power, just to name a few. And these do take wood panel grips, and you might want to upgrade these guns to make them look like they're something special, different, and interesting. Well, the grip company you need to check out is Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company making a wide variety of grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. Mark, the owner, is an artist and craftsman. He can apply custom logos, custom engravings, custom textures, finish the grips in a wide variety of colors, create his own laminate woods, and apply exotic materials like snakeskin and alligator skin to make them unique and one of a kind. Every set of grips he makes is made to order. So I'm going to put a link to his website in the comment section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. I'm going to ask you to go over there and check out everything he has to offer. And when you place your first order of a set of Brown Works custom grips, please tell Mark the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so we have so much to talk about when it comes to the Glock 25. I want to compare it to a Glock 19, and I want to go over all of its specs and features. So let me go ahead and adjust the camera, and let's take a closer look at this really interesting pistol. So before we go over the specs and features of this Glock 25, I do want to give you some close-ups of it. As you can see, it does utilize the Gen 3 frame with the finger grooves and the 2-pin retention for the locking block. Some people would also notice that the barrel hood is a little bit different. It has a little bit of a cutout in it, and that is because the slide does not have to travel as far for 380 because of its overall length. And for some reason, once again, people think this is a direct blowback pistol or a modified direct blowback pistol, and I want to disprove that right now. Let me go ahead and clear the weapon. And let me bring the slide back, and you will notice that that barrel definitely tilts, just like every other Glock pistol. So this is not a direct blowback pistol. I don't know why some people insist on that. This barrel has the same camming surfaces that you would find on every other Glock. So let's compare it in size to the Glock 19. And as you can see, it's exactly the same size. In fact, the frame is exactly the same. The overall length is the same. The barrel length is the same. The only difference is the caliber, and you can see the difference in those two barrel hoods. We also, of course, have to use different magazines, but in profile, the 380 magazine has the same overall length from the front to the back as a Glock 19 magazine. But as you can see, it has a recess in there because the cartridge is shorter. So there are the followers, the 380s on this side, the 9mm on this side, and you can see the differences. There's the back of the magazines once again. So now let's go over the specs of the Glock 25. And once again, this is chambered in 380 ACP. It has a 15 round capacity. Its barrel length is 4.02 inches. Its overall length is 7.36 inches. It has a height of 5.04 inches. It is 1.26 inches wide. The length of pull, which is the distance between the front of the trigger and the back strap, is 2.8 inches. It weighs 22.75 ounces, and according to Glock's website, the trigger pull is 28 newtons. But if you live here in the United States, that's supposed to translate to 6.29 pounds. So that's the next thing I want to test. So let me get out the Lyman trigger pull weight gauge. So let's see if Glock is honest when it comes to the trigger pull weight of their pistol. And before testing out the trigger, let's of course drop the magazine again, ensure there's no ammunition in it, and safety check it one more time, visually inspect that chamber, and it looks like we are good. Let's take a look at the initial take-up and the reset, and pretty much this trigger feels like all other Glock triggers. We have a little bit of a take-up, a little bit gritty, back to kind of a mushy wall, but it is predictable. It sounds like a standard Glock trigger. Then we have our reset, a little bit long, a little bit mushy take-up, but it is predictable. If you've ever shot a Glock, you know exactly what this feels like. All right, so now let's get out the pull weight gauge. Let's clear any averages and let's test it out. And sometimes this can be a little bit tricky, not just because we have the blade safety, but because this model has what some people call the target trigger. You see those serrations on the front of the trigger. Some models have a smooth trigger, and some of their smaller ones have what they call the target trigger. So we don't have as much surface area, and it's a little bit harder to get the gauge to stay in one place. But I will do my very best. So let's see what the first pull is. 5 pounds, 9.2 ounces. 5 pounds, 11.3 ounces. Six pounds, 5.2 ounces. 5 pounds, 11.4 ounces. And finally, we have 5 pounds, 9.5 ounces, which gives us an average of 5 pounds, 12.6 ounces. So just a little bit less than what Glock claimed, but that is right in the middle of pretty much all of the other Glock triggers that I have measured. So once again, if you like the Glock trigger, you're pretty much going to know what to expect with this gun, and you're going to like it. If you don't like the Glock trigger, well, you're not going to like it. They're just very consistent. So that's all the specs and features of this pistol and what the trigger measures at. So now let me readjust the camera, and I'll talk about all the things about this gun that I like and don't like. And as always, when it comes to any firearm that I have here on the workbench for review, I like to share with you my initial thoughts on the things that I like and don't like about it, and I always want to start with the positive first. And the first thing I love about this gun is just the fact that it's here. It's a Glock 25, a gun that I was never able to handle or see in person for so long. I know, I am a geeky gun collector. You might look at this as just a tool, but for someone that loves to study guns, it's just so interesting to have one here and have the opportunity to shoot. I'm also a big fan of the fact that this gun is so consistent with every other Glock model. I love that about Glocks, whether you're shooting one in .380, 22 long rifle, 9mm, 10mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, 45 ACP, or even 357 SIG. They all feel the same. They all look the same. Whether you have a subcompact, compact, full-size, long slide, you just know what to expect. And you have to give Glock credit for making a very consistent product. The last thing I love about this gun is the fact it does use the tilting barreled locking system like every other Glock. They did not cut a corner and make a direct blowback pistol. And I think this is going to translate into a very soft shooting gun. A lot of you are probably saying, I would never want a gun like that. It's too big, chambered in a weak caliber. Well, you have to put yourself in the shoes of other people. Maybe they have rheumatoid arthritis like I do. Maybe they're elderly. Maybe they're novice shooters. They can't handle a 9mm or they're not ready to. This might be the perfect gun for them. It might be a good step up. I've heard some trainers like to start people on the Glock 44, chambered in .22 long rifle, and then move them up to the Glock 19. Well, this might be a good intermediary between those two. Move them to this and then the Glock 19. You step them up progressively. So I definitely think this has a place in the Glock lineup. But unfortunately, it's my understanding that they have since discontinued this after its initial run. So now let's talk about all the things about this gun that I don't like. And to be very honest with you, as it sits here on the workbench, I can't think of anything. I personally like Glocks. I'm not a Glock fanboy, but I don't hate them like other people do. So I really have no complaints. So now it's time to finally get this gun to the range and see how it shoots. So as always, I'll start off with the first magazine, shooting at a target at 7 yards. I'll tell you what my initial thoughts and experiences are. Hopefully I'll be able to shoot this gun accurately, and I'll come back and report to you about its recoil impulse. So let's go to the range and see how this thing shoots. And that was definitely a very interesting experience. The recoil and feel of this gun is like no other Glock I've ever shot. There is something familiar about it, but it's different. The recoil is so smooth and so light, and honestly, this might be the most accurate stock Glock I have ever reviewed. Normally I shoot them low and to the left, but this one is right on. I really like this. This is not what I was expecting it to be. The only issue that I'm noticing that this gun might have is some weak and erratic ejections. It makes me wonder if the recoil spring in this pistol is a little bit too strong. So maybe if they reduce it by 1 pound, it might give us a more consistent ejection pattern. But maybe the gun just needs to be broken in. So let's go back to the range. Let's double the distance on this target, put some more rounds through it, and just see if there's anything else about it that I discover that I like or don't like, and I'll report back to you. And I honestly believe this might be the best shooting .380 pistol I have ever reviewed. Normally, because the guns are so small, they're considered pocket pistols, I review them at shorter distances. Because the size of this is the same as a Glock 19, it feels great in my hand. I don't really understand why everyone wants a .380 in the smallest package possible. Sometimes putting it into a compact sized pistol that's substantial can be a great idea. It feels so good. Honestly, this gun is also a lot of fun. It's shooting great for me. I absolutely think this is a grand slam home run for Glock. It's too bad that they discontinued it. I wish more people could experience it, but I'm loving this gun so far. And as you can see, it's still very accurate for me. Honestly, this is better than duty or practical accuracy. Remember, I'm just an average gun guy shooting a stock Glock. This is not a target gun. So I'm very happy with that group. And speaking of this gun's accuracy, now let's go out to 25 yards. I'm going to shoot this from the bench and see what the best group I can get with it is. And as an average gun guy shooting a .380 pistol, I'm pretty happy with that group. This gun definitely has better than your typical duty, practical, or CCW accuracy. I'm so impressed with this gun's performance. I have absolutely no complaints. Now, speaking of carrying this gun as a concealed carry piece, you're going to want to know, will it run hollow points? And of course, we have to go back to the range and test that. So let's do that. Let's make sure this gun would be good if it was holstered on your side and you had to pull it out for self-defense. And as expected for being a Glock, the gun runs great. There was absolutely no failures, but unfortunately we're still getting the exact same ejection pattern. I still feel like this gun may need to be broken in a little bit more, or maybe the recoil spring rate could be adjusted just a little bit. But because I'm having no malfunctions, I guess I can't complain. Alright, so the last test I want to do is a three-part test. I want to, number one, see, can I shoot this gun fast? Number two, can I change the magazine out quickly? And number three, is the gun naturally pointing? As a CCW gun, you might have to unload this thing quickly, get it back in action with a fresh magazine, and you might not have time to line up those sights. So if I just shoot this gun fast, how well will it work? Well, let's go back to the range and test these three things out. So let's break the results of this test down. Number one, can I shoot this gun fast? Yeah, for the most part I can. I started off pretty quick, but the trigger is a little bit long, a little bit heavy, and I got a little bit tired, so my tempo did slow down. Can I change the magazine out quickly? You bet. These magazines fly right out of the gun pretty much like every other Glock. And is the gun naturally pointing? Yes, it is, but I'm one of those people that really likes the Glock grip angle. I know not everyone is a fan of that, but for me, it always seems to work really well. So what are my final thoughts on the Glock 25? Essentially the Glock 19, but chambered in .380. Well, this hands down is the best .380 pistol I have ever shot and reviewed. It also might be the best Glock I have ever shot and reviewed. It simply is so much fun, and for me, it's very accurate. I'm so impressed by it. I think this would be the perfect gun, maybe for somebody that can't handle a 9mm, maybe an elderly person, somebody with arthritis, or maybe even a new shooter. I know there's a lot of people in the gun community that would not want a gun like this. They would say the gun's too big and is chambered in an anemic round. But it might be perfect for some people. And as a geeky Glock collector, I just want one for my collection. So honestly, I kind of feel like this is perfect in Glock's lineup and they should continue to make it. I'm so impressed by it. So on my star system, how would I rate the Glock 25? Well, you guessed it, it's getting a perfect score. 5 out of 5 stars. The only issue I had was some weak and erratic ejections, but maybe after 500 or 600 rounds that might smooth out a little bit as the gun breaks in. So let me know in the comments section below, what do you think about a gun this size chambered in .380? Did you even know the Glock 25 existed? Did this video answer any questions you had on it? And are you a geeky Glock collector like I am? Do you want one for your collection? I'd love to know. So, as always, thanks for watching.